It's late. You've been driving for a while. You take a wrong turn. Or maybe you don't realize it's wrong yet. Your car gets stuck. Nothing dramatic, nothing broken, just enough that you can't keep going. So you do what most of us would do. You call someone you trust. You tell them where you think you are. They say they're on their way. And for a moment, everything feels okay. You stay on the phone. You start walking. You can hear the night around you. Open space, fences, maybe water nearby. And then something happens. You say 2 words, and the call goes quiet. Not disconnected, just silent. This isn't a hypothetical. This is something that actually happened. Welcome to A Little Bit Cursed. Before we get into today's story, if you're enjoying the podcast, you can follow A Little Bit Cursed on your podcast app of choice so you don't miss future episodes. You can also find me on social media at A Little Bit Cursed. I'll have everything linked in the description if you want to follow along here. Okay, let's get into it. Today's story hits especially close to home for me. I, at one point in time, was a 19-year-old college student in Minnesota, and that is what makes this story so chilling. This could happen to anyone. This is one of those cases that happened quietly, late at night, on back roads that look like hundreds of others across Minnesota. The kind of place that feels familiar, safe, until suddenly, it isn't. This is the story of Brandon Swanson, a young man who disappeared during a phone call with his parents. And even years later, it's a story that doesn't sit right. So get comfortable, because it's about to get strange. Before we talk about what happened to Brandon, it's important to talk about who he was. Brandon Swanson was 19 years old, so very young. He had his entire future ahead of him. He was a college student in Minnesota, attending Minnesota West Community and Technical College, where he was studying wind energy, a field he was genuinely interested in and excited about. People who knew Brandon described him as a kind, friendly, and easy to talk to person. He wasn't loud or reckless. He didn't stand out in dramatic ways. He stood out because he was dependable, thoughtful, the kind of person who made people feel comfortable. And that detail matters, because Brandon wasn't someone who disappeared easily. He wasn't running from anything. He wasn't trying to start over. He wasn't living a chaotic or unstable life. He was close with his family, especially his parents. He checked in with them. He trusted them. That trust is important to remember as the story unfolds. Brandon was someone you could picture going to class with, someone you could imagine sitting next to at a bonfire, someone who could have been a friend, a sibling, or a classmate. He was loved, and he should have come home. On the night of May 13th, 2008, Brandon had been out with friends celebrating the end of the school year. Later that night, early into the morning hours, Brandon attempted to drive home. At some point along the way, his car ended up in a ditch. The car wasn't badly damaged. Brandon wasn't injured, but he was stuck. And already, this is a moment that feels familiar. A late night, a wrong turn, a small mistake that doesn't feel like it should change anything. Brandon then called his parents. He told them he believed he was near the town of Lind, Minnesota. His parents immediately got into their car to help him. And for a while, everything felt manageable. They were talking. They were trying to coordinate. Help felt close. And I think this is an important thing to sit with, because nothing here feels chaotic. No one is panicking. Everyone is doing what they think is right, and somehow that still isn't enough. When Brandon's parents arrived near Lind, Brandon wasn't there. They believed they could see headlights in the distance, so they followed them. But Brandon still wasn't where he thought he was. What no one realized at the time was that Brandon wasn't near Lind at all. He was miles away, near the town of Taunton. A simple mistake. A wrong assumption. And suddenly, everyone was searching in the wrong place. If you've ever driven on rural back roads at night, you know how disorienting it can be. Everything looks the same. There are no street lights, no clear landmarks. It's easy to believe you're somewhere you are not. At some point, Brandon decided to start walking. He stayed on the phone with his parents as he moved through the darkness. He described what he could see. Fences, fields. At one point, he mentioned hearing water. And again, this doesn't feel dramatic. It feels quiet. It feels slow. It feels like someone trying to orient themselves in the dark. His parents stayed on the line, trying to guide him, trying to keep him calm, trying to find him. And then, suddenly, Brandon said 2 words. Oh shit. The phone call didn't disconnect. It didn't hang up. It just went silent. No explanation, no context, just silence. And I think that's what makes this moment so unsettling, because there's no clear line where everything goes wrong. It just stops. Search teams were deployed almost immediately. Local law enforcement was joined by additional agencies, and extensive search efforts began across the surrounding area. By the next morning, Brandon's car was found. It was sitting quietly in a ditch near Taunton, Minnesota, not badly damaged, not submerged, and still drivable. There were no signs of a crash, no signs of a struggle. The discovery of the car confirmed what no one had realized during the phone call. Brandon had been mistaken about his location. He wasn't near Lind. He was miles away. Canine units were brought in and began tracking Brandon's scent from the area near the car. But the trail didn't slowly fade. It didn't scatter. It stopped. Abruptly. Fields were searched. Roads were searched. Nearby waterways were searched. And despite repeated efforts over days, weeks, and even years, nothing else belonging to Brandon was ever recovered. No phone, no clothing, no personal items. The car was there, but Brandon wasn't. Law enforcement has stated that they believe Brandon may have accidentally entered a body of water that night. But that belief has never been confirmed. There is no physical evidence to support it. Only unanswered questions. Brandon's family has never stopped looking for answers. They've continued to speak publicly about his case, not because they want speculation, but because they want understanding. They've said they don't believe Brandon disappeared intentionally. They don't believe foul play was involved. At the same time, they've acknowledged something incredibly difficult. Without evidence, certainty is impossible. Because of that, Brandon Swanson has never been declared legally dead. As long as there are no answers, there is still space for hope, even if that hope is complicated. They aren't searching for a story. They're searching for the truth. To this day, Brandon Swanson is still missing. And I think that's one of the most chilling parts of this case. We have no idea what happened. to Brandon Swanson that night. His family is still waiting, and his story remains unfinished. Cases like this are unsettling because they remind us how easily things can go wrong, even on an ordinary night. How someone kind, loved, and careful can simply just disappear. And that's what makes this story feel cursed from the start.